We live in a time where the flow of information is constant, with competing voices in crowded spaces, where old school thoughts meet new school ideas.
We are constantly having to recreate ourselves. To understand these identities, we need to decipher the culture. This is unconventional. This is Lounge Academics.
You a question. Okay, so tell us a bit more about unique voice. What is it about unique abilities? Why are you Mr. Unique Voice? What is this about? What has given you the inspiration, or what was the key thing that sparked you into action to do what you do?
Okay, so unique abilities stemmed from an experience I had as a disabled man in the workplace. Going back to when I was born 6 months premature, and I had a narrow airway. So in terms of talking and, let's say, breathing, I had difficulty in doing that. When we fast forward to my early 20s, employment, it was difficult to have my voice heard. I was banging on for accessibility and fair treatment within the workplace, which I wasn't being heard, which led me going to a tribunal.
Wow.
And then I thought to myself, hang on, if I'm a voice for myself and clearly causing an earthquake amongst people at the top, maybe I need to help others to have a voice too. So I decided to call myself Mr. Unique Voice, because I thought, one, how I came to have a voice in general with my condition is unique in itself.
Okay.
People with my condition normally do not have a voice. They normally use little gadgets or kind of robot-y voices. They don't have their own voice. I've been lucky enough to be able to have my own voice, to be able to speak. So it's unique. And I thought, unique voice, it goes. Unique abilities was built on that foundation, and it's to give others a voice within community.
Okay. So really, are you able to go into, because I know obviously there was kind of like a tribunal, are you able to kind of talk about how much more can you talk about your actual experience, your own individual experience regarding the tribunal and stuff you're able to go into?
So my individual experience, it was basically me getting trigger points. For those that don't know what trigger points are, it's enhanced extra days for a person with a disability to maintain their health within the workplace.
Okay.
So the organization I joined, their entitlement, can I say entitlement? Their standard sick day was 8 days a year.
Okay.
However, because I had a pre-existing condition, I couldn't survive on that 8 days because I had chest infections. Sometimes I would lose my voice. So because I had a pre-existing condition, the organization needed to take that into consideration and give me extra days to manage my health over a 12-month period. So when I first started, I thought, why don't they do this, before I get sick? I asked them once. They're like, yeah. Something happens, we'll sort you out. Okay. Then something did finally happen 6 months later. Went to them. I said, I've fallen sick. My chest infections got bad. How can you support me as an organization? Yeah, we can look at ways to support you. We'll give you 1 day throughout the whole year to maintain your health. So including the 8 days, I was to be given only 1 day.
Wow.
To maintain my pre-existing condition,
Wow.
which you might as well not have given me any day
Yeah.
at all. You might as well just left it to the 8 days, and then I would have appealed it.
Okay.
So I thought it wasn't fair, because I thought it's not my fault I've got my condition.
Sure.
I was born with it. So as an employer, if you've taken me on based on at the time it was called the double tick.
Okay.
The double tick is a guaranteed interview process for people with disability.
Okay. Is it like what some
so
people
anyone who's
talk
got
about,
disability,
positive discrimination, in a way, in the sense of kind of positively, you know, so people aren't feeling disadvantaged in terms of applying for jobs and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah. Okay. The same way that,
yeah.
you know,
So
people from different other ethnic groups, other ethnic backgrounds are encouraged to apply for certain positions, or women or those with disabilities, etc. So it comes under that kind
yeah,
of Equality Act intention, I guess. Okay, cool.
yes. So the double tick standard is from the Disability Act 1995. So at the time it was double
Okay,
tick. So I was thinking, hang on, if they've taken me on based on me meeting the minimum criterias and based on me having a disability, so making me harder to reach the labor market, surely I should be supported of my health. I didn't take it lying down. I started to do my own research, and I decided to take them to a tribunal.
okay.
You know, to establish that I needed support as a disabled person, and they were going to give it to me one way or another.
Could I just
Um,
ask,
so when we
just to clarify, because I think what you're highlighting there is you've gone through a process where effectively your employer or organization had let you down, they failed you, yeah, based on obviously the support that you needed as an employee, they was unable to do that. And obviously you've taken them through a process of a tribunal, so this has been legally challenged. You've gone through that process. Just for the sake of those that are listening in and tuned into this conversation right now, for those that may not be au fait or knowledgeable of the kind of process around taking people to tribunals and challenging this process, how long roughly would you say this has taken? What kind of what's the journey through this process for people that are not aware and are also in similar circumstances and are seeking to get their voice heard?
Again, what are you referring to? My personal experience of the tribunal?
Yeah, I guess what I'm doing right now is leaning on your own personal experience. So for those that maybe have an impairment or disability and they feel that, you know what, my employer, my organization ain't taking care of me. I feel that I'm entitled to certain things. I don't know about the law. I don't know about the legislation. Based on your own personal journey experience, what advice would you be giving those people? What would you be saying to them about the journey, what to look out for, how to prepare, you know, that kind of thing?
What I would tell people with a disability is never leave anything to chance. Never just accept what your manager says and then it's done. You know, read the company policies, go through the standard procedure of an appeal process, a grievance, or whatever you need to go through internally. Once, you know, that is not adhered to, or, you know, you're not being heard, you then need to go through a tribunal process. And when I say even going through the whole grievance process or appeal, make sure that every conversation you're having about accessibility or reasonable adjustments, everything is done in writing. Never ever do things verbally, because verbally the manager can just deny it or the organization can just deny it. So it's always about having the paper trail,
Very important.
and making sure that you know your rights as an individual, because disabled people have rights.
Yeah.
So you need to do your own research and you need to be educating yourself. Don't wait for that union rep to educate you,
Yeah.
because half the time the union reps don't know the legislation.
Sure.
And, you know, majority of the time, disabled people need to recognize that as much as you've got a union rep in the workplace, it's your problem.
Yeah. So
That
you got
union
to
rep,
own that. Yeah.
he's just there. Yeah, he's just there as your shadow. But if you don't put in the work, or if you don't put in the research, you could go to a tribunal and be made to look stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
So
you always need to remember.
yeah.
Go on.
No, I was going to say, so first and foremost, what I'm getting from you is people should be encouraged to effectively go out, find out about their rights, find out about the legislation that supports their rights, etc., and document everything. Keep things documented, write it down, any exchanges that you have regarding your needs or support to document that and let that be known. So how has that translated in terms of your own personal experience? How has that translated now into the actual, because this is a company, this is a business, this is advocacy that you do. So how has this translated into you becoming an advocate and effectively a commissioner around championing the cause for for that?
So when I started my journey in terms of my own experience, it kind of opened the woodworks. I found out a lot of people were suffering in silence. I found out a lot of people were going through similar situations at different scales. I got floods of messages on Facebook when I first started.
Okay.
It then, people were more, I don't think people were looking at me and thinking, okay, he knows what he's talking about in terms of employment law. I think it was more of, okay, this guy was treated foully. He took the law into his own hands, not on a negative note,
But you
more
took control.
of the
Yeah, you took
advocacy.
control in
I
advocate.
took
Yeah,
control, you know, and it was just opening the eyes of other people to know that just because you may be in a corporate world, it doesn't mean you can't have your voice heard within a legal capacity. So it opened doors. I went to do talks at primary schools for Scope.
Okay.
I'm currently a commissioner for Lucian Council, disability commissioner. And it's all stemming from just the change that I want to bring towards disabled people, and having disabled people being treated no less and not unfavorable to able-bodied people.
Yeah, no, I totally hear that. And that makes loud and clear sense. So obviously you're an advocate, you're a commissioner, you're doing things to really champion the voice. And I think just to emphasize what I'm hearing from you is that obviously, which is clearly valued, is the fact that your voice matters. Not necessarily the knowledge of employment law per se, but your knowledge in actually understanding and being fully aware and cognizant of the need to represent the voice and represent others. That's what I think speaks out loudly. And that's something I want to really commend you on, because from the first time you've come onto our radar and that I've seen you active on social media, you've consistently been championing the voice for people with impairments and stuff, or any known disabilities or any specific needs that they may have and that needs to be tended to, especially within the context of the workplace. So it's brilliant that you're actually doing that. So in terms of your business advocacy, so how does that actually work on an advocacy basis? What do you actually do per se? How does that work in practice for unique abilities?
So it's more of a consultancy support.
Okay.
So I advise people what they need to do within the workplace, / disability awareness in itself.
Okay.
Because a lot of employers, as much as they've got the disability confident badge slapped on their logo, some of them are not adhering to what they need to do as an employer. You know, because DWP brought out an initiative in 2016 called Disability Confident. And it's a voluntary scheme where employers enroll themselves and state that they're disability aware, they're disability open and diverse, and they're willing to take on people with disability.
Yeah.
So I find that, or I've come across a couple of employers who have deemed themselves disability aware, deemed themselves champion of understanding indifference, but the practices that are being adhered to people like myself and beyond is not acceptable.
Okay. So they chat all the good tune, like they do all the rhetoric, they do all the equality, diversity talk, but actually ain't practicing what they preach effectively. Yeah,
No.
okay.
No.
And in terms of cases, because you said you're involved in terms of like a consultative, advocacy-based kind of thing, how many cases would you say that you have kind of live at the moment in terms of supporting people that may be in a predicament with their employer around disability or unfairness or unfair treatment?
Case-wise, well, because we're in this pandemic,
Yeah.
everything's kind of calmed down. Not well. I'd say I've got 2 or 3 cases live at the moment.
Okay, 2 or 3 live at the moment. And how, just on the scale of things, how much of a problem is this, like in terms of people's disabilities or differences not being recognized? How, on a scale, how big would you say this is as an issue for employers and for those that have specific needs? Excuse me.
Well, when you're looking at the statistics of able-bodied in employment, 81.8% of able-bodied people are employed, 53.6% of disabled people are employed. So look at the ratio. It's quite massive.
Wow. In terms of the gap between those that are in employment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what, if we was to speak to the reasons for these stats, what would they be? What would be some of the reasons why there's such, what would you think would be the reasons for that gap?
The reason is, 1, employers are apprehensive, they're lacking the knowledge, they're lacking the confidence. B, the disabled person is trapped, feels isolated, is not being heard, or is not going through a smooth process, and they decide to walk out. And thirdly, the middle management just don't seem to understand the individual, their following process. Everything is a process. Sometimes you've got I'm not saying as a manager don't follow company process, but you need to tailor it. You need to tailor it to an individual, and you need to sometimes put a human touch to it. And a lot of organizations are losing that human touch, because you will find that a lot of people with disability are talented, but are they given the opportunity to shine? Not all of them.
Okay.
Unless you've got a big mouth like me, who's prepared to talk up and don't give a damn about the consequences, you will find that Joe Bloggs down the road who's got a disability, who doesn't want to speak up, they'll end up leaving because they don't know the know-how, or don't have the energy to fight to stay in a job.
Okay.
So they'd rather quit and go and claim ESD.
Yeah. And we've just had, so from Paper Pages, we've just had a comment asking, because she's just come in. So yeah, we're talking about accessibility and disability, Miss Paper Pages. And at the moment, what we've been talking about is we've been exploring Mr. Unique Voice's kind of experiences from his own personal experience that's led to him doing advocacy right now and doing consultancy on behalf of those that may feel unfairly treated by their employer, by their organization. But Paper Pages was asking about access to work. I'm wondering, I'm not cognizant of access to work. Is that a particular scheme? Or is that something through the government that she's referring to?
Right. So access to work was a scheme that was introduced in 2014. It was introduced in 2014 to assist and remove barriers for people with disability. So example, I use myself. I've got a right-eyed impairment. I need a software called ZoomText,
Okay.
and I need another software called Dragon and
Yeah.
a bigger screen.
Yeah.
So that's my barrier into
Okay.
work. So without those things, my daily working life will be difficult. So the employer or the individual who's gaining employment contacts DWP and registers for this scheme called Access to Work.
Okay.
Access to Work then contact the employer and ask the employer, is this person working at your establishment? If the answer is yes, conversations between the employee, the employer, and DWP are made to find out what the barrier is, what particular help is needed, and then financial debates between the employer and DWP are had, and support is put in place to make sure that that individual with disability sustains work over the 13-week period and hopefully on a permanent basis.
Okay, so it's kind of like a scaffolded process. It's like kind of supporting that person. Kind of what I'm familiar with, like in university terms or higher education, is that where you'd have making reasonable adjustments. So people would come in to assess and help to make the reasonable adjustments needed for that person to thrive in their job. And to be able to assist them.
Exactly.
Is that kind of basically matching that at an employment level? Yeah.
Spot on.
Okay, cool. Got you.
Spot on, yeah.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. So I guess I don't know, Miss Paper Pages, where you were going in lines to Access to Work, whether there was a particular question you had around that or whether that was something that could support in this scenario, I guess. So I've got Karina's come in saying a lot of employers and disabled employees don't know about this scheme. Okay. Would you second that? Nana, would you say that, you know, a lot of employees and employers are not aware of like Access to Work or these types of schemes that can help them?
That's correct. A lot of employers are not aware of it. Some employers are aware of it, but don't advertise it to the staff member. So if the staff member is not clued on, again, they're missing a treat.
So is there a loss to the, I mean, in terms of the employer here, I can see the significant loss to, for example, disabled people, people with impairments. I get the loss to them, but for an employer, do they lose anything from getting in, for promoting this scheme, or do they have a lot more to gain as a result? Do they lose financially from this at all?
The employer does not lose a dime.
Okay.
If anything, it's a grant, so it's paid for by Department of Work and Pensions, and then the employer, if the employer has incurred costs towards it, the money is refunded to the employer.
Okay.
So the employer doesn't lose.
So they lose nothing. So it seems to me this seems to be more about ignorance and lack of knowledge around the scheme, more than a malicious kind of approach to deny people that right. It seems like employers don't seem to know about it based on what's been said so far.
I would say in this modern day and age, 2020, employers are clued up. It's more of an individual who wants to be malicious or doesn't really understand the dynamics of supporting a staff member with a disability, and that disabled person falls short.
Okay. Yeah, and they get failed. So how much, in terms of like this type of work, how much are you involved in raising awareness around kind of Access to Work?
I speak about it a lot because obviously the work I do, I assist others to gain employment. So it's something I really advocate to employers. You know, an example I can give is one of my clients that I helped. He needed a table. It's one of those robotic tables that move up and down by itself. And straight away, the employer assumed they needed to pay for it in order for him to start.
Okay.
And it's something that, you know, I got the literature and explained that it's not something they have to buy personally. They would have to fund towards it, yes, but the help is there to bridge that gap. So it's something that I heavily
Recommend,
advocate, because if it can get that person into work and increase that statistical figure of 53.6 to 60 or 60.1 or 0.2, we're moving progressively in getting a lot more disabled people into sustainable work.
And it's interesting because already Miss Paper Pages has added, just as we've been talking, she's been talking about how Access to Work has paid for her colleague to get taxis to and from work, and also has paid for IT equipment. So in terms of that, there's quite a bit that can support with in terms of travel, as well as actual peripherals, hardware, equipment, as you mentioned a bit earlier. Okay.
Yeah. It covers everything. That if you need the support, you just need to ask the question. If you don't ask, you don't get it.
Yeah. But it's interesting because of his career, and a lot of people are really feeling what you're saying in regards to this. And it is a really big issue because, like I said, I'm used to those working in higher education where reasonable adjustments are slightly different there. And there are some people that may have a physical disability. Like, for example, there's a mobility issue, like they're in a wheelchair, etc. And these disabilities might be more visible, whereas there are some where there could be other kind of neuro related issues or cognitive issues, particularly around dyslexia, dyspraxia, Erling syndrome, that kind of thing. I think I'm usually used to encountering it at that end of the spectrum, you know, from usually a student support point of view. If you were to look for an example of good practice, if there was an organization or a company or someone who would exemplify great practice in the way that they've responded to disability or people with impairments, who would that be that you would shout out as a good beacon?
A good beacon would be a company called Appa.me.
Appa.me, okay.
Limited. And it's a gentleman called Imran Umar.
Okay.
I think he's in the live.
Oh, cool. Shout out
so
to
what
you,
his
bro.
company does is they basically go into employers for employees. They go and see employers and assist to enable that person with disability has full support within their role. So they're that person's second shadow. Example, someone with autism. It takes time for them to process things depending on what's part of the spectrum they're on. So Imran has staff members who go into the workplace, who mirror image the employee, learn their job from scratch, and help the individual cope within the first 3 months of their probation. And then once they pass their probation, they are there with them constantly just to give them that reassurance and make them feel comfortable in the workplace. And if I'm to look at my own life and in my career path, I think back when I started work, support was nil. Access to work didn't exist. So in terms of gaining support and being understood, I didn't have that.
That wasn't in place.
So I think his organization is really doing a big thing to make sure that the figure or the statistical number on people with disability increases.
In employment and stuff, in
employment,
And in terms of, so is this funded through Access to Work? So some of the activities are great work like this that's being done. I think this is excellent that we have the ability to be able to have someone who can support you, make sure that you're coached, you're comfortable, to be your shadow, as you described, alongside you as part of that journey as you settle into your new employment or job. Is this funded through Access to Work? So for these types of services, are those activities funded for great organizations like those?
Yeah, so that Imran's organization works alongside DWP.
Oh, okay, cool, brilliant.
So the funding is from DWP, but the physical part of it is all Imran's organization.
Okay, definitely. And in terms of your own activities and your own work, how, because one thing that we always emphasize here at Lounge Academics and 5 Minutes to Disrupt is we always want to create teachable moments for people where people are able to gain wisdom, to get their knowledge, to be able to kind of move on and yeah, either apply to their lives or recommend someone else or make recommendations to other people. So for yourself, what would you say in terms of your service and what you provide as a support around this issue as an advocate? What should people be coming to you for? What should they access you for, you know, in terms of support? How can, yeah.
People, in terms of support, people should reach out to me to give them that moral boost. People should reach out to me for, I wouldn't say I'm a lawyer by any chance, but I've got books as if I'm an employment lawyer. You know,
yeah.
I've got books.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
anything to do with changing legislation, I'm on it. Any type of, you know, any type of treatment that is of a discriminatory pinpoint, contact me.
Okay.
I just dislike when people with disability who are clearly talented, who can clearly evolve within their own right, are being made to look stupid to society. I really detest that.
Yeah, definitely.
And
yeah.
if I can be that beacon for an individual, that's what I'm here to do.
No, of course, definitely. So really, in the true sense of the word, providing advocacy, really, to provide advocacy for people, connecting them to the right individuals, if need be. Yeah, it sounds great, really, what you're doing. Actually, here's a question here. I think Paper Pages has put a question. She said, have you found organizations like ACAS advise well on disability disputes? So what's your experience of that or views?
Nope. Never helped me.
Wow.
Nope. They give you the bog standard, you know, like you know, the entry level kind of employment law, and then they tell you it's down to your employer, which doesn't help me. And I can talk it from personal experience.
Wow. So in terms of, okay, so ACAS, from your own personal experience, they didn't really serve much other than to refer you back to your employer. So in terms of advice and mediation, wasn't really great for that.
They weren't really great. They just told me what I already knew or what I'd already read up on.
Okay. So in that respect, then, I guess for those, if I'm somebody who's having a particular issue around unfair treatment, right, in terms of my disability or an issue that I have, I come to someone like yourself to kind of get that support. And I think this links into the question that Yaz has just asked. How can you also advise, I guess, on a bigger scale, policy and legislation? So is there room for you to advise maybe at government level around some of these issues? Because it sounds like there's a great injustice, really.
I would wish to be in that position. Throughout the work I've done so far, if Mr. Boris wants me to wants me to advise on that, I would be more than happy to do that, because there is a lot of injustice surrounding employment, and not even just from employment. If we go back to special educational needs education, there's a lot of injustice around that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. In school-age children, yeah, totally. Primary, secondary, all through the different, strands of education. Yeah. I would second that.
You know, and the amount of injustice I had from education to where I'm at now, only God knows who I am today, because the educational system isn't fun if you're disabled, is all I can say.
Are you able to elaborate on that in terms of your own kind? Are you taking that from experience of your peers as well as teachers? What are you referring to? when you say it's not been easy? What's not been easy?
So an example I can use is when a local borough at the time of my infant um, decided that I needed to go to a special needs school because I had a disability. Not the fact that I had a brain cell and I could think for myself and, you know, do things for myself. I mean, no disrespect to people who have high complex
Yeah, yeah.
needs, but the message my mother got when I was growing up is, oh, he can't go to a mainstream school. He's got a disability. Therefore, that categorizes him in the special needs education. So he needs to go to a special needs school.
Straight, and that was it. And yeah.
Straight, and that was
And
it.
how would you say that education has differed from, let's say, able-bodied students? Are students more at a disadvantage for going to a special needs school?
Hell yeah. You are very much at a disadvantage.
Okay, how?
Because the way I can only talk from my
Sure, sure.
experience. When I went to that school, we were not being taught GCSEs, or we were not being taught the curriculum, period. We were just made to go there and play like I was in nursery.
So, okay.
So because you're seen as, because you're disabled, you're seen as your intellect is not on par with able-bodied people. That's how you're made to be seen.
Well, so basically, yeah, so on par, your disability effectively, and I guess this comes under the whole, I think they call this like the medical model of disability, where you're seen
Yeah.
as your impairment actually is what needs to be fixed. You need to be fixed. And as a result of
Yeah.
as part of that thread of being fixed, it means that also intellectually, regardless, although a physical impairment has no bearing on your ability to think, read or write or whatever, there is this emphasis that maybe now you're kind of sub-intelligent or you're more inferior as a result of the disability or impairment. Is that correct? And that's the assumption that's being
Spot
made.
on.
So I know
Yep.
there are other alternative and possible models like the social model of disability. I'm aware of that. I'm assuming, of course, you know about the social model of disability. Do you want to say a little bit more about
Yep.
that? As I think that's a better way that we need to be viewing people that may have an impairment in society, in my opinion. But maybe you can do it justice by saying a bit more.
So for me, the social model is about that person. It's about who they are rather than their disability. Um, Example, myself. If I wasn't given the opportunities that I've been given throughout my life, and I was purely based on he's got a trachea, how can we fix him? I don't think I'll be as confident as I am
Yeah.
today. A lot of people I came across in my life looked at me based on my capabilities and how I came across as a person. My disability was secondary, and that's how
Yeah.
it should be. Your disability should be secondary. You as a person should come first, and how you can be helped should come third.
Yeah. Totally, totally agree. And I guess, as you said, the social model is a more progressive, more proactive approach to looking at the holistic person of the individual as opposed to their impairment. And I guess the knowledge around that as well is that the view is with the medical model really sees you as someone being fixed, whereas the social model sees you as a holistic individual and a person. Whereas really also society is what impairs people as opposed to the impairment. So when you're looking at someone with a disability, I think the view is it's really society is what impairs that individual by the assumptions that they have or the ignorance about their impairment or disability that could be more damaging than the actual impairment itself that the person may have, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally, 100%. And I guess I just want to say, Nana, you've been dropping some bars here in terms of knowledge around disability. You've referred to certain schemes along with Miss Paper Pages around access to work and some of the things that people are entitled to. that may not be aware of, that may not be aware of these things. And, as Yaz said earlier about the lack of knowledge. But yeah, go on, Nana.
I think also a lot of employers, or shall I say local authorities across England, need to adapt an employment service that focuses on supported employment. I feel the bog standard job centre support for
Not
people with
cutting it.
disability is not helping people with disability in the
Yeah,
slightest. Supported employment is a more holistic, one-to-one, personal-centered approach. Not everybody who's got a disability is confident as me.
yeah,
Most people are just about gaining their confidence to speak up for the first time. Most people with disability are just about coming out their house for the first time, putting on that tie for work for the first time, or they've never even filled out an application form.
yeah, totally.
A book standard recruitment company is not sufficient or adequate for someone with a disability.
Okay.
That's my personal
No,
opinion.
totally. No, I hear that. And this has sparked a lot of discussion because I'm looking at the chat as we've been talking, and there's been great debate, people sharing their own experiences around, I think Miss Paper Pages has talked about, I think it's her nephew that has autism and her experiences and how the school has been, the school that he's been placed in has been more of a hindrance, really. We've had other people, Shanimus A has been talking about very true, regardless of individual challenges, we need to be together to understand one and each other. Totally agree with you 100%. Yaz has gone on to talk about that. She agrees that because you have a disability doesn't mean that you don't have the capacity to learn. So there's been a lot of contributions based on what has been said so far. And I guess as we're kind of talking, I don't know if anybody has any particular questions at all that they want to pose to Nana or to Mr. Unique Voice as we're talking through this issue. And at the moment, throw out your questions if you have any. Maybe there's an aspect of accessibility and disability that we may not have spoken about that you want to learn more about. Maybe there's a particular situation that you have or someone who that you can kind of put out there as a question for Nana to kind of respond to. So don't hold back. We haven't got long, but it would be great in the next few minutes or so if there are any questions to put them out there and to say really. So Nana, yeah,
I
go,
think
yeah.
yes, yeah. I think yes asked a question about do I get funding for the support that I give. Currently, no.
Okay.
I'm
Thanks for that, yes.
hoping to get funding at some point soon, but currently I'm not getting any funding at the moment.
Okay. Is there I guess because I must admit the disability in terms of disability in that aspect of the protected characteristics, I'm not really au fait on necessarily the entitlements. I know a little bit, but obviously in comparison to yourself, my knowledge would be just a small, infinitesimally tiny. But I guess in terms of funding, I would imagine surely there could be some form of funding or some kind of strand based on your, the efforts that you're making from a consultative point of view or a training point of view. And does that really, is there strands of funds that exist to support that activity?
There is, well, in terms of this whole supported employment, funding only started coming out in 2018. So the
Okay.
focus point, we all remember Theresa May, who was Prime
Yeah.
Minister not too long ago. She put out a pledge that by 2029, people with disability, 1 million people with disability needed to be in employment.
Okay.
So based on that, a scheme was made called what's it called again? It's gone out of
Okay,
my
that's
head.
cool.
Yeah, proof of concept. That's
Okay.
it. So proof of concept was basically um, to test how people with disability with one-to-one support, how they will be able to work. So when you look at in terms of streams of funding for now, it is out there, especially with COVID
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
There's loads of streams of funding out there, not coming from central government directly, coming from
Sure.
different platforms, but slowly but surely funding is
Yeah.
out there. It's just how to get it, how to pitch it, and how to get it is the difficult bit.
Sure. And I think also, I mean, I've just picking up on a comment made by a Miss Paper Pages yet again by Nye, who's kind of asked, have you considered doing a team building program to deliver to small staff groups? It could come from the development and team building budgets. So I'm assuming Miss Paper Pages is fully in the know because she spoke about working with DWP. So is that a possibility for you to explore maybe?
Yeah, that could be a possibility to explore, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, funny saying that. I think someone saw one of my videos on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and reached out to me. The person works for Tower Hamlet
Okay, brilliant. Yeah,
Council, and they've reached out to me to come and do like an awareness program talking about disability and giving motivation to staff. So I think in terms of funding, the more I get myself out there, something may happen, but I also have to put myself out there in terms of pitching for
yeah.
funding.
I think you've definitely, and there's loads of hearts. There's a lot of love being expressed here based on what you're sharing, and on the conversation. And I guess definitely getting yourself out there, you're definitely doing, because I can see, you're on podcasts, you're on radio shows, you're on YouTube channels, you're definitely out there and very visible. But I guess, is it safe to say that this has kind of been like a solo endeavor, like you're a part of quite a small team to be able to do this? So maybe getting out to get that funding may not be that possible right now. Am I right in saying that? Am I making an assumption?
Um, you know what? Another thing, and one of my negatives. Yeah, I don't normally talk about negatives, so I'm going to talk about it
Yeah.
today. I'm a one-man band,
Okay.
so I'm trying to do everything myself. So probably that's why I'm not grasping everything that I need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm effective.
Yeah.
When you're trying to run an organization by yourself, you're not effective
No.
enough.
No, I hear you. I hear you. And I think everyone here, to be honest, most of the people that engage with us are of the same kind of experience anyway, in terms of everyone has started off from a certain place. But I think what's great about this conversation and people tuning in and as a part of this whole community, as you've heard from Miss Paper Pages, there's avenues, there's ways in which you can maybe come in to do your stuff, and particularly as she suggested the idea of an inroad into certain teams that you can get access to, which she's aware of as a facility that you can definitely come in on and be able to max and support her on. Or you to get supported as an income stream or as a funding stream. I think also,
Yeah.
just to say, because I'm aware that we need to wrap up because these conversations are always very engaging. So we're running out of time before Instagram boots us clean off the live stream. But just to
Yeah.
say as well, I think we would love to kind of work with you as well in supporting you as part of that endeavor because being out there marketing, promoting yourself is one part of it, but then also you got to be able to work in on your business as well. So I think most definitely
Yeah.
there'll be people here on the platform and are part of our community that would like to collaborate with you, work with you to raise awareness around that. Because already, as you've heard, there's people sharing
Yeah.
personal stories of their own experiences, of themselves or of their family members who have been adversely affected by a failed, poor, flawed system, you know. But I just wanted to ask you, Nana, because of time, if you had a final point or something that you wanted to communicate to everyone right now, what would be your kind of final word for people to take away from this conversation?
Final word I would say is, people of indifference, love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be scared to show people you're indifferent, like I do. Don't care what people say about you, because as human beings, we're known to talk. You know, we're always going to say something, whether it's positive or negative. Be bold, be confident, and more than least, know your rights.
Yeah. No, definitely love for that. Love for that. And I don't know if there were any final questions. I didn't see anything pop up in terms of the questions, but
Paper page, DM me.
Yeah, definitely.
Paper
Yeah,
page.
she's showing you love, man. Yeah, Better Minds. Yeah. Paper Pages has been on our platform before, so definitely please connect with Paper Pages and do that. I think that would be really great as well. Also, how can people get hold of you? So if there are people listening to this on the podcast or catching this on playback, how can people be able to communicate, get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Best way to get in touch. I'm on Facebook, so it's Nana Marfo, or it's Mr. Unique Voice. You tap in, it'll come up anyway. Instagram, Mr. Unique Voice. I'm on so many platforms I can't keep up. Instagram, I think it's Unique Abilities Limited. LinkedIn is Mr. Nana Marfo.
Okay. And now, do you have a website at all? Have you got a web?
That's one of my negatives.
Okay, so
maybe you can help me with it.
I think we're it's funny you say that, because we're trying to work out our whole web presence ourselves, because we're on so many different platforms, you know. But yeah, we're working that stuff out. But yeah, I think that's something we can have a conversation about. You know, Twitter. Someone's asked
one
about
more
Twitter.
thing.
Yeah, cool.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter is Mr. Unique Voice. No, yeah, Mr. Unique Voice is my Twitter account.
Okay, that's your Twitter account, yeah.
My Twitter handle.
So is that the whole at thing, yeah? On Twitter. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr.
So that's where
Unique
people
Voice,
can find you. No, that's brilliant. I just want to say once again, Nana, big up to you, sir. Respect Mr. Unique Voice. They're chilling in your car, doing your thing. I like it, man. You look like you're about to do a bust or something. Do you know what I mean? Like you're slightly like moonlighting and stuff, you know, ready to go get somebody. I'm waiting for people to get him now, do the bust. But no, but no, because I see they're sitting in the dark. But I thought I'll keep it serious, you know. I'll leave my jokes to the end, you know. But it's been great. It's been an absolute pleasure, sir, to have you on the platform. It's really an inspiration to have people like you come on. And we're always about excellence. We're always about championing quality. You know, we're not always about the huge numbers, but we do love the numbers as long as there's quality alongside that, you know. But thank you, sir, for coming on. I'm looking forward to working with you as well in the future. I don't think this is the end. I do believe that there's a lot of scope to develop. Thank you, because it's been such a long time as well. Waiting to come on. COVID hit and then it just messed up everybody's plans. So thank you for being so open and for that and being patient. So
thank you,
as you've heard, Mr. Unique Voice, thank you, Kareem. Thank you as well. Thank you, Yaz. It's been great for you being a part of the conversation. Thank you for listening in. Please follow us if you already aren't doing so. Do follow Nana, connect with Nana as well if you're not already following him. Follow him on all socials. And equally, if you want to catch up on our content as well, be sure it's Lounge Academics on all platforms, and that's Academics with a K, so it's AKADEMICS. And you can catch us on YouTube as well, where you can get a follow-up on all our backlog of YouTube interviews. Obviously, because of COVID, we haven't had any interviews, any live ones now, hence why we're doing the live streams. But please do follow up on some of our stuff. There'll be some gems there for you. So, Nana, thank you, sir. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
True man after my own heart. Thank you. Keep advocating. Just keep up the struggle, man. Keep fighting. It's not easy, but thank you. And I think everybody has been really appreciative of your sharing as well. So Yaz is saying take care. Shani's also saying you're an amazing
Yeah.
human being, Nana. So respect to you, sir. Yeah. And Paper Pages is just showing some love. She's just doing the hands up, man. So thank you so much. Yeah. And Nana, we will
Thank you.
speak soon. This has been Lounge Academics. Thank you, sir. God bless you. And
Thank
take
you.
care. And we'll speak soon. Bye.
Take care.